name is Brian Daughtry, and today we are at Automotive Aesthetic. Today we have a R35 Nissan GTR. So the process we're going to do today, we're going to pull the car into the shop, we are going to wash it, prep it, get it ready for ceramic coating today.
The paint is in a little bit, not bad condition, but relatively speaking, in our terms, it's not in the best shape ever. So we're gonna wash it, decontaminate it, clay bar it, which is part of the decontamination process, remove all that film, contamination that's on the rear from all the exhaust fumes building up on the back. Get rid of all of that, and that leaves the surface nice and bare.
So he drove here on these wheels, so they have a light dusting on them. They have a little bit of brake dust on them. They're not as dirty, but still require a light cleaning. Tire just needs a good cleaning, because obviously it's got a little bit of mud on it. But the wheels themselves are in great shape.
I would say cleaning bead locks is a little harder in some ways, because not only do you have all these bolts that could potentially, hold some dirt, but a simple brushing does pretty well. But you have a bunch of different spokes. You have a barrel that you pretty much can't even fit a brush in because of how large the brakes are. For the most part, pretty easy, but also a little bit annoying to clean. Drying them, on the other hand, drying them can be a little bit annoying because it's going to hold water in every little crevice between these, between the little spacer here and the actual wheel, between the bead lock and the wheel. It's going to hold a ton of water, so drying it out can take a little while, but nothing we can't handle.
In previous times we've washed cars, always wash up and down, side to side, no circular motions. Circular motions cause swirls, and we don't like that around here.
We typically always wash it top down. With this, because we're prepping the car, it doesn't necessarily matter because we're polishing every square inch of this car anyway. So any swirls that are induced are going to be removed before we coat it. But the idea of not inducing more swirls should always be kind of in the back of your head, because it just creates more work for you.
So after washing the car and getting all the dirt off of it, we are running a clay bar over top of it to get rid of all the contamination. So when we polish the paint, we're not picking up any dirt and grime in the pad.
So these are all the contaminants that are stuck onto the surface that we would not be able to come off during a typical hand wash process that actually requires some sort of abrasion. To get all these little dirt pieces off, that could be tar, road grime, rocks potentially, whatever it might be, but this gets everything off before we actually polish it. So we just got the car back inside, and underneath all of our lights and whatnot, there's tons more lights in here than where we washed it. and it's nice and warm in here, so the car can kind of come to a room temperature, like all the panels and whatnot. There's a few scratches here and there, some water spotting going on, but other than that, it's really not terrible. This hood gets really hot, so there's a lot of water spots going on the edge of this hood here. What we're really just going to be going after is all the swirl marks, the water spots, and we're gonna try to see if we can do anything with the headlights. There's tons of cracking and discoloration going on in the clear coat on the headlights. So we're just gonna basically just go after all the scratches and oxidation, if you will. There's not really a whole lot of oxidation going on this car. It's more of just like a slight haze from all the UV rays that have kind of beaten down on this car. We're gonna basically just do a full two-step paint correction. The first step is gonna cut down the clear coat just like a very small amount, and it'll leave a little bit of hazing behind, but that's like kind of a good thing. It shows that you've cut down the paint enough to where there's no scratches. You've hopefully diminished down your defects as much as possible. That's when you can go back with your second step, and that's what we're going for here. We're going for a really nice glass finish again. Although the paint has some serious shine to it at the moment, I will say that. I'd say it needs like that last little 15 to 20% of polishing to really just kind of spruce it up a little bit.
Usually when cars that are made like overseas that come over, they either come on boat. When these cars sit at port, sometimes they sit uncovered. So some of the issues, from being at port for so long can also affect the paint. So this is probably something that happened at port or so. This is a low mile car. This car only has 35,000 miles, but since I've known the owner who's had this car, this has always been an issue with the car. It was a lot worse, but obviously we can't do anything about it unless it's a repaint. It's so far, it's under the clear. So as you can tell, this stuff that's underneath the clear, pretty sure it's something from a factory defect or sitting at port. It looks like something is dripped and just ran down and it's etched its way in like under the clear. Don't think it has to do with anything with the fuel because it's so far away.
So I switched up the pad and polish combination just a little bit. So I switched up to a microfiber finishing pad, which has a bunch of foam behind the actual microfiber.
I'm Kyle. I help out Brian and Steven sometimes. I'm in college right now, so I help out when I can. Usually I'm just doing interior, but I'll help them prep cars and I'll help them clay bar. I'm gonna learn how to polish soon, and I, been here for a little bit since COVID and been coming back ever since. I'm gonna help out in the interior. I'm gonna spray it out with some air, bring all the crumbs to the front, vacuum it, wipe down the little bits of leather in the back seats, and maybe get the steering wheel and the dash and stuff. Give it a good wipe down, give it a good clean.
Kyle, how did you end up here?
Honestly, I called one day during COVID because everything was in lockdown, and I had talked to Daniel originally, and I had seen you guys' YouTube videos, and I was like, hey, I wanted to see if I could come in and see what it's about, maybe get a job. He said, yeah, sure, you should just come in, we'll test you out and see how you do. So I went in the next day and worked for a little bit, and he was like, asking me questions. He said, well, I'll wash my car and we'll see how you fit in and stuff. And so I washed his 4Runner, and then they're like, yeah, you got a job here. And I was like, cool. And been here ever since. So I'm using Double Black Diamond Express Interior Cleaner. It gives some UV protection, and we're just gonna spray it on, lather it on with this, wipe it off, and see how it is. I might get a thicker bristle brush to get in these cracks a little bit more since the seat's a little bit worn, but I think it'll give it a really good clean.
started on the second stage using a really soft black foam pad. I would say the only thing that I'm kind of struggling with right now at the moment is a little bit of micro marring when I'm wiping the polish off, and I think I can easily fix that with a different polish right now. Other than that, it looks great. The first stage that we did, worked phenomenally. The proper amount of cut without being, going too deep, without removing too much clear coat. Like the difference just in this little front quarter panel that I've already finished up is a huge difference in just the clarity of the paint, even with all these lights on it. Like without the lights, it'll look relatively similar to how it was, but with all these lights on it, it's like a massive difference. There's definitely an improvement there. I've given the car a full wipe down with some paint prep, which is a 50-50 mix between water and alcohol. Usually distilled water, but distilled water, alcohol, or like a specific panel wipe. And what I have here is a nice applicator pad, and we've got our trusty dusty BC08. This is a 3-year ceramic coating. It's a glass coating, so it's gonna harden and create a thicker surface than more traditional ceramic coatings. Without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and start.
Now that the car is finished, I'm sure he's gonna be pretty happy with it. I pointed out some issues to him that was happening. The hazing was going on, he could see in the sunlight, but now it's got that mirror reflection, in the sun. It'll be easier for him to maintain again, since the other previous coatings was at the end of its lifespan. So now that we just got it rejuvenated for him and protected, so he's gonna enjoy the car more. The results can definitely speak for themselves. I'm super happy with how Brian and I got the car to look. I think the car looks great, and the owner's gonna be very, very pleased, I'm hoping.